Welcome to the Condor DM show out of order. Tonight I'm covering Bushido. Welcome. I always open up a little early to give people time to get here for the official start time. Just because I start the stream at this time doesn't mean this is the actual start time of my coverage. The coverage will start at 8 o'clock. Just like I tell you, start time is 8 o'clock. This is just some time for people to roll into the stream to get here before I start on the coverage of Bushido. I'll wait until somebody's here before I say much about Bushido because it's really important. Tonight's just it's a great game. It is. It's a wonderful, wonderful game. Bushido, in my opinion, does the Japanese culture feel better than even Dungeons and Dragons attempted to do. Like, if you want to really get it, this is the game you're going to get it with, Bushido. So, welcome to the Condor DM show, out of order, Bushido. I'm excited because tonight I'm covering Bushido. Tomorrow's my birthday. Tonight I'll be straight-laced. Tomorrow night I'll have a bit of a buzz going into the stream. That will be fun, but trust me, this will be fun too. This will be a lot of fun. I promise you, this is going to be a lot of fun. Bushido is a really interesting game. Top to bottom, really interesting game. All right, I want to tell you a bit about old school games, just so you know. There is two levels to old school games. A mediocre level, which for a lot of the games can kill them. They can kill them. It's a mediocre experience in a way that if you have that, that will undersell what the game is. You'll come out of it with the complaints that you might hear, common complaints about some old school games. Though if you play it at a higher level, those complaints go away because you see what it really is. But it's what level are you playing at? The hobby was made for hobbyists, very elite people. And so elite people don't like a mediocre feel. When you say this is going to be the Japanese culture, they want to feel that for real. They know they can, but you got to sort of go at a pretty high level. You got to be on point. You got to be focused on the game and doing what it says. In old school games, combat can be nothing but consequences in many areas. In this game, combat's slightly linked into a bit more. There's consequence for combat, like consequences could cause combat, though you don't want to overkill with combat either. You don't want it to feel like just a simple samurai game. You want combat to be important as when it happens, when it's something that's just not consequence, it means there's an important change to the story, an important change to the events that are happening. So it's never just casual. They're supernatural in Bushido. But when you want to feel, it's not about overkilling with the feel. If you want to feel something, things have to be rare. You know, the idea that you could run into something supernatural will bring tension. When you finally do run into it, it should be rare. And that rarity is really important to the actual tense feeling. Like, then it's scary. When you don't often run into supernatural things, when you finally do, that's when it can feel intense. And old school guys understood that tension could be created without the action, without the overkill. And when you overkill, it cheapens whatever it is that you're doing. In this game, it's really fantastic. If you run it right and you got players that buy in, that's important. You don't need to be a Japanese historian to get this right. They give you just enough information and what they tell you, and it's true. You don't get to be perfect. The only thing you got to do is be consistent with the way you run it as a game master. Consistent with players that are willing to buy into what it is, and they're willing to play the game for what it is instead of wanting to play the game in a more freestyle way. Like, they want to play a character in the timeline, accepting what consequences could be there, and go with it. Old school games never held your hand, so really important. It's a type of game that says to the game master, do not correct people outside of the game. Let the game, let the NPCs, let the world correct them. Craig, howdy from Wales. I see you become a member. I'm looking forward, man. I got some good topics, I promise you, for those member-only things. It'll be a good chance for you to really have some time with me personally. like personal time. And in that case, you can actually get me to do some videos that won't hurt my YouTube because of the way the algorithm works, as long as I keep them as member only videos. So I'm willing to do some videos that I normally don't do on this channel that won't hurt the channel. But I had to really look into it. Does it hurt the channel to do all these off topic things? It doesn't, as long as I'm doing member only content, which we can talk about during those member only. And it's going to be on Wednesdays. So it's every second Wednesday of the month is member only streams. And the first one is going to be May 20th. At the same time, I'm not going to change the routine that you're in now, Craig. Same routine. It just be on a Wednesday night will be the members only streams, right? And that's where, hey, you invest. I'm going to bring some love to you. Like I'm giving you a lot of my time on that. And it's not taken away from the 4 streams I already do. So it is additional. I'm not just cheapening and turning one of the other streams into a members only. No, I'm giving an additional stream just to show that I'm working for it, right? I really appreciate that. And I really do bust my ass trying to help people out here. You know, I get it. I get it. To a lot of people, I don't appeal. You know, there's some people out there that just want to go to a YouTuber who's going to, them and whoever is going to read what's in the book, tell you what it says in the book that you agree with. People are going to nod along, being happy with that. And that's what they want. They want what they agree with, and they'll nod along. They're not going to learn anything from the stream. They can just go read the book and get all the same information. I try my best to bring stuff, as you know, Craig, that it doesn't say in the books. And you know, for my promotion stuff, when I'm explaining the games, go read the books. A lot of my explanations, even though it's clear about what the game is, you'll not find that in writing. That's not written in the book to explain to you exactly what the game is telling you to do, right? It's me really informing you through my wisdom and experience more about the game, right? Bushido is something where it's good. You don't got to be a historian. Just got to be consistent. Players aren't going to look for perfect. They're going to look for a feel. And regardless of perfection or not, you can create the feel through consistency. Rarity, but they lean to combat. So unlike some other games, like I was saying, combat is consequence, like it would be in many other games, but there is like combat you're going to be doing outside of consequence. But when you do combat, it can't be casual. It's not a casual samurai game. You want it to feel unique. So combat should be, if it's not consequence-based, should be when there's an important event, like a turning point in what's going on. That's when combat happens. So there's a turn in the arc of the story. That's when combat happens outside of consequence. That's what you should be looking for. Supernatural should be extremely rare. And to note the dice system, it's simple. It's D100 versus skill and attribute. The mechanics aren't hard. It's these type of games. You can, if you play at the mediocre level, you're going to be disappointed with you're not going to get the same feel. If you play at a high level, you're going to get a feel, but it's more about performance and getting it right than it is worrying about mechanics. A game like this is not. It's a lot of old school games will surprise you. You think they're going to be like technically hard for an elite player. Well, being elite in the hobby, a hobbyist back in the day, it wasn't about having hard rules to understand. It's about how you perform. Go to a lot of war games. A lot of these games are going to be made for people with the wargaming mindset. Most war games are not hard. They're really not. Even Warhammer, it's not hard to understand the rules. The rules are actually way more simple. It's how you go about using. It's how you position your troops. It's how you do things. It's more about your performance with the army than it is about you worrying about what the rules are. The rules are actually quite simple, but it's so simple to lose a war just by positioning your guys in the wrong way. So these old school games that are made for more hobbyist elite players and game masters, they're not made with these difficult rule sets to understand. That's nothing. It doesn't prove anything. Because what it meant to be elite in the hobby back in the day is about how you perform in the game, not the rules, right? Rules can be as simple as pie. And most old school games are extremely easy to understand. Like they're not hard at all. But what will confuse you is you'll think, well, that must be a great game, easy to understand, easy rules. I'll be like, well, if you go into a game like Bushido and fights become pretty consistent, it won't feel like what the designer is looking for. And the tension that the rarity of things is supposed to create, the tension goes away. So when you look at old school, it's less about, because you'll notice a lot of games you'll get where it's like, this is Asian, this is this. You're going to play it and it doesn't feel anything like that. Like the experience is not what you want it to be. It doesn't feel like the thing. Well, old school hobbyists understood how to get the feel. And to get the feel means you got to be willing to have the things that seem normally fun, like the action has to be more rare, right? Yeah, something in that vein. It can be like that, but it's still meant to be rare. So it should feel more Japanese, human, common until you finally get to the events where the thing breaks down, where the supernatural kicks in, where what you're talking about happens. That's the only thing. I ran Bushido. My first run with it sort of sucked. At least I thought it wasn't that good. But I was screwing up. And one guy just told me, he said, Steven, I said, what? He's like, you're running it like a fucking clown. I said, what do you mean? He's like, you're using combat too much. The supernatural is cool, dude, but you're not creating the tension because you're putting it in there too much. And see, I learned from elite players, elite gamers, which was create feel. And that feel becomes the part that becomes addictive. See, if I give you the game, no matter who you are, but I do it right as a game master, and I get you to buy in. Buy-in is important from the player. I can't have you running around like it's just samurai SWAT. I can't have you running around in the style that you're just going out to find combat. It's not a video game. Don't play it that way. But if I run it for you right, and you're willing to go through the paces with me, the tension and the feel will become addictive. But these games, it's hard to explain that to a player. You got to have them have that first initial experience for them to go, holy fuck, this is awesome. And they'll realize it's awesome without a ton of action. Because they'll realize they finally been patient enough to get through it with you. And when you finally go to the moments of combat, when you finally go into them, it will feel intense. When they finally meet the rare supernatural, because of the way it feels, because it's rare and tension is built up, they'll be like, oh, wow, like this is intense. But if I just give you supernatural in a more free-handed way, that tension goes down. Your feel with the experience goes away. So what I need to do is get you as a player to buy in and then get you to that moment. I got to get you patiently going through the world. Like up front, I don't want combat. I want you to start experiencing Japanese feudal timeline. And again, I don't got to be perfect with that. It's not what players need. They don't need a perfect historian with Japan. There's enough in there that it gives you enough without giving you everything to create the feel through consistency of the way you run the game. So once you get it down to a pattern and you run it that way, it's all about just being consistent. Now, what I found is if I correct it, my early time, I try to correct players outside of the game. Stupid move. That was a clown move. I was like, well, why? Well, I'm trying to get them to play it right. The guy said to me right away, the game takes care of that, dude. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, look, read here how the NPCs react. He's like, if they act a certain way in character, the NPCs are going to handle it. The world is going to create the consequences. You don't got to do nothing, and the player is going to learn through that. Remember, old school isn't about telling you up front what to do. It's about you getting in and learning, and you'll adjust because the world will give you consequences for speaking wrong in character, for saying the wrong thing to the wrong person. But I got to tell people, it can sound unappealing until you've had a real experience with it. And then it's one of the best games you'd ever play. I mean, honestly, not just because it was Japan feudal. I loved the game in general. But it took me my first round to really screw the pooch, have a wise guy come up to me, an elite player, and just tell me what I was doing wrong. And the reason he knew is because he had already played it with a good game master. And it wasn't that I was bad. I was being mediocre. I was trying to do more action. I was trying to do some typical, really stupid things, trying to rush into things. Nope, be patient, go with the rhythm, let them experience the world first, get them to it through rarity, and when you get there, that feel is intensely good. I mean, it makes it one of the best games around. But it's all about performance, not about understanding the rules, right? Performance is old school games are always more about how you perform more than being difficult technically through rules. But just to let you know, it's a basic game. D100 or 2D10s versus skill and a tribute. People wonder why I give my game as D100 versus target number, my own Neo TTRPG system. It's because I did a lot of these games and I liked that system. I use that because I know so many games. I don't have to lean into D20 and do that. I altered my version of it so it would be different, but it definitely has some relatable things to it. Okay. Bushido, influences and birth of the game. Now, some Japanese names, I'll do my best to pronounce them right. Some, I'm a little out there, but we'll see how it goes. It shouldn't be too bad. Bushido, influences and birth of the game. Bushido is an attempt to bring feudal Japan, historical, cultural, and mythological, into a structured RPG system, not just reskin medieval Europe. So it's really trying to give you the real deal. Feudal Japan as the primary foundation. Unlike most early RPGs that default to European fantasy, Bushido is built on the samurai era of Japan. Social structure, samurai, peasants, merchants, nobility. Code of conduct, honor, duty, obligation. This is not background flavor. It is core to how the game functions. Samurai cinema influence. A major influence comes from films like Seven Samurai. Themes carried into the game: duty versus survival, personal honor versus practical reality, group dynamics under pressure. Also influenced by Kurosawa style storytelling. I'm sorry on the pronounce. I said some of the Japanese names can be a little out there for me. So this style of storytelling: slow tension, moral decision, consequences over spectacle. Japanese mythology. I said some of these names better back in the day, right? Japanese mythology and folklore. The game does not stay purely historical. It pulls in spirits, demons, supernatural forces, creatures like the Oni, the yokai or yoki, results a blend of historical setting and mythological elements. Influence of early RPG design, post D&D era. Following the success of Dungeons and Dragons, designers began exploring new settings, new cultural frameworks. Bushido stands out because it doesn't change monsters and weapons. It changes social rules, character expectations, player behavior. Publication: Bushido by Fantasy Games Unlimited, released in 1980. The year I was born, ironically. Designers Paul Hume, Robert N. Charette. Same publisher of Space Opera, ironically, which I just covered. Important connection: like Space Opera, it is system heavy, detailed oriented, but applied to a completely different genre. So there are some similarities, definitely from Space Opera to this game because it's made by the same people. Cultural structure over generic fantasy. This is one of the biggest defining traits. Behavior matters. Respect, rank, social interaction. You cannot act like a wandering, chaotic adventurer. If you do, the world reacts negatively. Differences from most RPGs at the time: culture is enforced, not optional. The concept of the giri, obligation, and duty. The game leans heavily into obligation to lords, family, social position. This creates internal conflict, role-playing pressure, situations where the right choice is not the easy one. This is where I would say, me just adding some free layer on here, this is where you need buy-in from players. They can't just be that chaotic adventurer. You have to have players that are going to, I buy into this, and they're going to buy into the social pressures of the time and accept it and actually try to play characters that play more to it than against it. Martial identity and combat philosophy. Combat is not just mechanical, it reflects training, discipline, style. Samurai combat especially carries weight, risk, meaning. This is not casual, repeated combat. It's not a video game. You're looking for a feel, not just playing a game, right? It's role-playing game, right? So it's those two aspects clashing together. A reaction against generic medieval fantasy. So this is a reaction against generic medieval fantasy. At the time, many games followed the D&D model directly. Bushido instead says, what if the entire structure changes? Not just new setting, but new expectations of players, new social rules, new type of storytelling. What it was trying to be, Bushido is trying to be a culturally grounded RPG, a system where society matters, behavior matters, consequences follow your actions. It is not trying to be a fast action samurai movie simulator or a generic fantasy game with katanas. Bottom line, Bushido is built from feudal Japanese structure, samurai cinema influence, mythology and folklore, early RPG system design. What makes it stand out? It enforces culture and behavior as part of the game's system. That's the difference. It doesn't just change the setting, it changes how players are expected to act within it. You'll notice a lot of similar things I say about old school games because old school games, the way I'll put it to you guys is this. Old school games don't want the rules to be difficult. They want them to be at the back end. It's like wargaming. Wargaming doesn't want rules to be hard for you to understand. That's the last thing a wargame wants you to have an issue with. They want you to be playing the strategy. And if you're worried about what dice you got to use or what system you got to use, you're not thinking of positioning. You're not thinking of playing the game. You're worried about getting it right. They don't want you to worry about getting it right as far as mechanics go. Old school games are simplistic in their mechanics because they don't want you to worry about the mechanics. They want you to play the game because the quality of your play is what gets you what you want. Oh, you're just at the right time, Philo. Just at the right time. I went through influences. You can check that out later. Just influences and birth of the game. I haven't started it, but I'm going into the game master part. I hope you heard some of what I was saying when you came in. And it's true. Old school games, if you look at them, you might think from what I'm telling you, elite players, elite this, and you'd be like, man, the mechanics must have been technical. No. Elite meant you performed at a high level, right? That's what it means. It's not about having a hard time with the mechanics. It's like wargamers. And I learned this about wargaming. I thought wargaming was going to be hard to get technically, like on the rules. No, it shocked me. I was actually sad that I took so long to get into wargaming when I did, because I was like, wow, this is really not hard. I'm like, dude, it's not. Wargaming is not meant to be hard technically on the mechanics. The hard part is playing, right? It's performance as a player. So positioning of your group. We don't want you to have a hard time understanding this. It's just, it's now that you get the easy to understand mechanics, how do you play against the other player? It's a mind game. So you like in this game, Philo, this game is 1D100. Simple mechanic, 1D100 versus skill and attribute. All games like this are simple mechanical. So when you see these newer games that are mechanically heavy, what I say is it takes away from the elite play. If I'm having just a hard time trying to wrap my head around the mechanics of your game, then my playing becomes secondary. Where elite people, the elite hobbyists, especially wargamers, believe that it's about the way you perform in a game not about understanding mechanics. That's the real part of the game, right? So they want you to be able to play, not have a hard time, because they understood that advanced mechanics, like having it, doesn't make the game smarter or better. It's the expectation of performance in the game that tells you if it's here or here, right? So a game that handholds you, that's why I always say I pick on WotC games sometimes, because I do feel like they handhold you, they're telling you what to do, where I'm like, man, I don't want to be told what to do. I want to go into the game, understand the rules easy, and then if I make a mistake, I fall on my face, but I learn. Okay, I don't do that again. That's how old school elite want you to learn, through experience, not through needing to learn a bunch of crazy mechanics. So now we're to the how to run. So this is for the game master, of course. You guys know the system here. Next would be character creation for the players, but we always start off with the game master. So Bushido, how to run it. You are not just running encounters, you are enforcing a social world. If you ignore that, the game falls apart fast. Or it becomes, again, it can become mediocre. A lot of these games you can sort of run at a small level, but the feel, the tension, all the expectations of the game go away, and the game can feel crappy. But I tell people, if they play it up here, it feels great. Oh, yeah, I do know about this, but great to bring that up, Craig. I really appreciate that. That's really great detail. You enforce society first, mechanics second. Remember what I just said about mechanics anyway? They're not hard. Mechanics are going to be secondary to how you run the game, how it's experienced. So you enforce society first. The game runs on rank, obligation, proper behavior before anything else. In practice, a samurai speaking out of turn in court equals consequences. Ignoring a superior equals consequences. Acting dishonorably equals consequences. If you don't enforce this, game master, the game becomes generic fantasy immediately. So making sure that, like, this is where I said, when I first tried to run this, I tried to get people to play right, like tell them how to play right outside of the game. Like, you got to watch how you speak. It's like, no. Let the game teach the players. Don't bother having a talk with them. Let them play however they want. Let them misspeak. Let them speak rudely. The game will teach them through consequence, right? So the game, and if you don't do that, if you don't enforce it, the feel goes away right away. It becomes generic, and the feeling it's gone. So it's really important to how you feel and experience the game. Prep social situations. You really got to do this. See, in D&D, you're prepping encounters and monsters. No, in this game, because of how detailed socializing the social structure can be, you do got to prep your social situations, not just adventures. Do not build, go here, fight this. That's not what the game is. Instead, build who holds power, who owes what to whom, what tensions exist. So again, let me say that. So do not build, go here, fight this. It's not like a video game. You want to instead build who holds power, who owes what to whom, what tensions exist. Look at Craig just knocking it out of the park. That's good stuff right there. I noticed tonight I actually know a little bit of what you're talking about, but good for bringing that up because I didn't bring that up. Thank you very much. Examples: a lord with conflicting duties, a village caught between factions, a samurai ordered to do something questionable. The conflict comes from people and obligations. So you're creating problems, moral decisions, consequence, more through the social aspect and structure of the game than you are just going around fighting. So you got to deal with, like, man, do you betray that person? What faction do you side with? Do you try to bring peace between them? And really trying to figure that out it's a major part of the game. Oh, you're just at the how to run it there, Chris G. That's great. That's awesome. I'm glad you are. So, even to put it to Chris G here, like I said, this game is all about slow pace, but feel intention. I'm at the part where it's talking about like consequences and how you do that. You don't have to talk to players outside of the game. The game itself creates that. A lot of the game is not adventuring and fighting. A big portion before combat is how you're dealing with the social structure of the game. And it can be fun. Like you got to be able to be into this stuff. Like you're sent to a place where a lord with conflicting duties. So how do you deal with him? Right? He has conflicting issues. He's on one side or another of something. Where do you stand? Or a village cop between factions. Do you look for peace between the two groups? Do you side with the group? But how much of a threat is the village under? What are you doing about that? These are moral dilemmas. A samurai ordered to do something questionable. Maybe he's being told to do something brutal. Do you agree? Right? And these are moral questions and moral challenges that you, at playing your characters, like in your group, need to decide how you feel about these things. So it's a lot more than just going and fighting. Good evening. Oh, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. Welcome, Black Rose. Love the fact that you're here for this. All right. So what I'll say about combat really quick to give you an idea. This leans a bit more into combat, but just to let you guys know, the guys that made Space Opera made this game too. Just to clarify something there. Oh, yeah. This does it better than Dungeons and Dragons, in my opinion, because they're strict in trying to get a feel through rarity of things. Like in this game, it doesn't lean away from combat, but what it will say is this. Combat is consequence, like a lot of the old school games. Where you do allow combat to happen, it should always be important. Like combat is the arc of the story is changing. Like, so if you put combat in there, that's not just consequence based, because combat could be you fucked up, so you're going to have to fight. You said the wrong thing to the wrong person. That's consequence fighting. That can happen, right? Outside of that, you're not just going to a dungeon to fight someone. Combat does happen. It should be rare, but it will happen more than some of the older games. It's a really important part to the story, and you need to fight this really important character. And whatever happens in that combat scene can change the direction of what you're doing with your characters. Could bring in new information, could decide things, could have a faction turn on you when you thought you were going to make peace, right? So it's really a change in the atmosphere and feel. Combat should be very important. Just like supernatural should be extremely rare. There's always the potential of it. That's tension. But if it's rare, that means when you finally run into it, you feel it. Right? So I'll go back to number 2 here. Actually, you want to know what? We'll start back at the start of this. I think it's so important. I'm getting some people just rolling in. So not at the start of the influence part, but the start how to run it. So how to run it, you are not just running encounters, you are enforcing a social world. If you ignore that, the game falls apart fast. 1, you enforce society first, mechanics second. As I said, old games, mechanics are easy to understand because it's less about your concern with understanding mechanics and more about your performance. That becomes the necessary part. Running it right and being consistent is how you get a feel. Old designers don't want you worried about what dice it is. Like they want you to know that, like breathing air. They want mechanics to be simple because they know what they're going to ask you is even more challenging. It's easy to understand the mechanics. It's hard to be consistent and run a game in a certain way correctly. They understand that performance is where the elite people show up, where the hobbyist shows up, right? So that's where it can be challenging. But when you get this right, it's awesome. It feels a certain way. So you enforce society first, mechanics second. This game runs on rank, obligation, proper behavior. You need player buy-in before anything else. In practice, this can be like the moral dilemmas. A samurai goes into consequences. So a samurai speaking out of turn in court, consequences. You don't got to tell players the consequences. The game will teach it to them. If you go into a court and you're playing your character and you speak out of order, there's consequences. Ignore a superior when they're speaking to you, there's consequences you will face. Acting dishonorably, there are consequences in the game you will face. The game will teach you. The game master doesn't need to teach you nothing outside of the game. Let players flap around. They will adjust. If not, they will feel the consequences of the game. If you don't enforce this, it's because enforcing it is how you get what you want, how you get the behavior change, right? But if you don't enforce consequences, the game becomes generic fantasy immediately. It loses whatever feel it's trying to create. That's when it can become a bad game and not do a good job. So as a game master, you got to do that right. If not, you lose. I hear it. Okay, prep social situations, not just adventures. So unlike some other games where you're prepping combat, in this game, you're prepping social situations because they can be that detailed and that important to the game. Do not build, go here, fight this. Instead, build who holds power, who owes what to whom, pressures, what tensions exist. Example, a lord with conflicting duties, a village caught between two factions. Like, oh, do you want to bring peace? Do you want to side with one faction? What is good for the village? What is the safest thing? What do you care about? Where do you stand? What's your moral dilemma? Is one faction more evil than the other? So it's bringing consequences like this where that part of the game becomes important to you, yet you're not out fighting, right? You're dealing with moral dilemmas. Or a samurai ordered to do something questionable. Do you support the samurai? Do you stop him? How do you feel about what he's doing? Maybe you're the one getting the questionable order. The conflict comes from people and obligations. So the tensions in the game are very important to the experience. Control player behavior through the world, not rule lectures. I tried to do this in my first run. I had somebody come and say, after they see me, "You're a clown, Stephen." Like, what? You don't need to say to them outside of the game how it works. I said, "Well, what do you mean?" Well, like, I want them to play right and buy in. He's like, "Look, the game will teach them to buy in." Like, let the NPCs deliver consequences. Let the world deliver the consequences. They will adjust, but perform push the consequences. Don't hold back, but just let them play. Let them be completely ignorant of what's going on. Let them walk into it. The world and the NPCs and everything will teach them what they've done wrong. They spoke out of order. Trust me, he said, you have the game in front of you. It takes care of itself. Greenish today. Ironically, I quit all the poo-poo. I'll be having my Gibson tomorrow night. So control player behavior through the world, not through rules lectures. You don't need to constantly explain the code. Let the setting do it. NPCs react. Opportunities close. Reputation spreads in a bad way if you speak out of order. Players learn quickly when actions have visible and they can feel it, the visible consequences to what they're doing. When they know there's a consequence to speaking out of order, they will adjust. Like, the game will take care of the behavior. Honor and obligation must have weight. This is part of delivering on that stuff, right? If honor is just talk, the system fails. That's why consequences have to be something you put on players. Make it matter. It affects social standing. So you just got to let players. Sometimes you want people to have fun. Sometimes you want people to learn. This is part of a learning lesson when you got to put the negatives on them. Make it matter. It affects social standing, access to resources, who will help or oppose them. So if you speak right, you're going to get help. The game becomes easier with connections. If you speak wrong, you can create who's going to oppose you and who does initially want to help you and oppose you. Are you maintaining friends? Are you making friends? Are you maintaining enemies? Are you getting enemies to take ease on you? Players should feel pressure to act correctly through the game. Consequences. Conflict when they can't. So pressure to act correctly and conflict when they can't. So when they can't act correctly, there's going to be consequences and conflict coming their way. Keep combat meaningful and limited. As I said earlier, do not run constant fights. Combat should be dangerous, decisive, rare compared to interaction. So social interaction should be happening more than you're fighting. If you overuse combat, you lose tone. right? It turns into something the system isn't built for. So it's not built for continuous combat. Combat's dangerous. You'll die early. It's like trying to run D&D where you're trying to go into the action between level 1 and 3. And early D&D, you're making it 5 characters. If you got to make it 5 characters, that's wrong. The game isn't made for that. That's why you're needing to do that practice if you're trying to go into action all the time in earlier D&D, right? Use the supernatural carefully. The setting includes spirits, demons, strange forces, but don't flood the game with it early. Start grounded, then introduce, meaning you start into like a human world. You want them to experience all the stuff I've been talking about already before they ever meet up with a demon or a spirit. Supernatural elements as escalation. So it's you're into the world, you're going through it, you know, stuff's happening, you're getting somewhere, and as you're messing about with stuff, finding out who enemies are, as tension is building, as your experience is building, you're getting closer and closer to something like a demon. But not right away, because you're trying to create a feeling. If it's instant, you start cheapening this whole thing, so the feel just goes away. So again, this can be one of the greatest games, if you have a good game master, that you've ever played. If you buy in, it really can. The feel is immense. But if you play this in some half-assed way, it will give you a half-assed experience. So your performance, your taking it serious, depends on your experience with it. Very true. Players need clear roles in society. Unlike many games, players are not free agents by default. They are samurai serving a lord, monks with obligations, individuals tied to structure. If they don't have a place in the world, they will drift and the game loses focus. So these attachments, who they're serving, the players have to buy in and take that serious. You're a samurai serving a lord. Take that serious. Like, want to know about the Lord, what they want, how you feel about that. That's really important. Monks with obligations. Playing that all that stuff has to be, you have to take it serious as a player. That's what they call buy-in for a game like this. But the buy-in pays off. Structure sessions around tension, not action. Tension's very important. The moral dilemmas. Like, you know, if you're going to help the village deal with what faction, who's bad, who's good, man, but anything can happen at any time. If you mess with the wrong faction, they could send people in that want to kill. That's consequence. That's tension. That puts you on edge. And the combat's dangerous. So it's meant to put you on edge of not sure what to do, right? So structure sessions around tension, not action. Build sessions like situation, pressure, decision, consequence. Not fight, loot, repeat. Example, ordered to carry out a task that conflicts with personal honor. Forced to choose between duty and survival. These are important things. Like, so you might be under a task where you come into the game, you have your character, you have an honor system, but here's something, you're getting an order from your lord that is telling you to do something you know directly conflicts with that honor that you have decided your character has, but you're being ordered to do it. You do it, man, there's the tension, right? Or forced to choose between duty, what you would do with your honorable character, and survival. Maybe the survival part is doing something dishonorable. And there's so many consequences around being dishonorable. But what do you do if it's survival? Do you give your life up to live to the duty, like to be honorable, or do you go ahead and survive? Oh, wow, right? Like, if you take it serious, this stuff becomes immensely tense. If you're a player who doesn't care, if you don't buy in, that's where the feel goes away. But if you buy in and take it serious, that's when that tension can make you feel a certain way. And you don't even need the fight. Like, you're on the edge, no combat, no nothing. It's great. It is fucking beautiful. Pacing comes from interaction, not movement. Oh, it would definitely tie into the stuff we're talking about here. It's almost like there's some real storytelling element going on here, even though this is not storytelling, but you see the element of storytelling that truly plays itself in here. When I hear guys talking about storytelling in the modern day, I'm like, well, the games aren't really, there's only certain games that aim at story, like to tell a story, where games that have storytelling as part of the package, it's pure, it's real, and it really hits the marker. Some of these things are still used today in movies and TV shows that get it right. Pacing comes from interaction, like I said, not movement. The game does not rely on fast travel, constant location changes. It relies on conversations because you're trying to figure out what's going on. Decisions. Oh man, what do you decide to do? Help this faction, help that one. Reactions. How do you react to the samurai going over there to do that awful thing? Do you stop him? Do we stop him? That's where the interesting parts come in. Slow pacing works here. If the tension is real, that means if you have players buying in, the samurai's going over to do the thing, it's that tension of like, what do we do? Because everything can be dangerous. So what do you do? Right? So the pacing doesn't have to be fast. It can be slow because it's all about tension, right? As it says, as if the tension is real. You must stay consistent as a game master. If you enforce rules of the society once, but ignore them later, players stop taking them seriously. So it's always making sure that the second you start on that standard as a game master, that's a rhythm. Like the world will always deliver these consequences. That's it. It's like the standard of how you apply anything, even in D&D. When you apply the certain dice type of thing, consistency is important to have your players take it serious, right? Not for them to not, you know what I mean, to stop trusting you. So trust is also part of that. Consistency creates believability. Now they believe this is how the world functions. It's like in Traveler, right? Is it common sense? But when it's deliberate, consistent, that's real. And player investment is important. Bottom line, running Bushido means you enforce social structure and behavior. You build conflict through obligation and honor. Use combat and supernatural elements carefully. If you do that, the game feels unique and grounded. If you don't, it collapses into generic fantasy with samurai. If you have a game master like me, you're good. I ran this quite a few times. I've always had like as long as I have my players buy in, which I never had a problem. Always get players to buy in, even through just getting the game to deliver. Because I bring certain players in. I've always had a terrific time with this. So all you'd have to do is hear me when I say buy in as players, and if you can, and you let me run this game for you, or somebody that's going to run it seriously and consistent, you're good. This is a fucking awesome game. It is an awesome game. But we're going into character creation now. Let's just recommendations from Craig is on point. I now know what he meant when he said, I'm interested in this topic. He was telling me about Bushido because he knows some stuff. Good. I really appreciate that, Craig, because I never mentioned even half the stuff you mentioned so far. So that really does. If anyone's going to get into this, again, it's like skipping a module. What you're offering is for ideas. Like if I were going to want a game master this and come up with ideas, because it's not like it's going to give me a module. The recommendations Craig is giving out here are perfect for you as a game master. It will show you all kinds of social situations, the way to use combat. I mean, he's on point with everything. Definitely take his advice that you're going to see tonight. So character creation. You're not just building abilities. You are choosing a place in society. That choice controls how the game treats you. Your class defines your life, not just your abilities. Your class is not just combat or skills. It determines your social rank, your obligations, who you answer to, or how others treat you. Examples: samurai, status, duty, restrictions. Ronin, freedom, but no protection. Monk, discipline, spiritual role. Ninja, because you can play that, secrecy, different expectations than the others in general. You are picking a role in the world, not just a play style. So how the world is going to react to you is so important here, what you choose, and each one of these can be a vastly different experience. But roles do matter. This is not just who you are game. Something like space opera, it does care about party makeup in that way. I guess if you don't want to look at it as a party or group. Social status is built into the character. This is one of the biggest differences from most games. Your position affects where you can go, who you can speak to, what you are allowed to do. A low status character cannot act like a high status one without consequences. It actually leans a bit into the Castle Falkenstein. Where, yeah, I mean, Castle Falkenstein, and even go back to the Pedal Throne thing, that game. It's social. What you choose is really important to who you can actually interact with, rules in society. Attributes still matter, but they don't override society. Stats affect combat, because it can be important here. Skills, survival, but they do not override rank, obligation, cultural limits. Here's an important note. A strong character still has to obey the system that they live in. It doesn't matter how good your character's put together, the social limitations, what they're under, is still on their head. It's not like, oh, you're strong, so you can just, no. Consequences will still come your way. Skills reflect training and discipline. Skills are learned, structured, tied to your role. You don't just pick anything freely without context, meaning your abilities make sense for who you are. So it's not just a random game, right? Random video game type of mindset. Background is not optional flavor. Your background determines who you serve, what you owe, where you came from. This feeds directly into the GM's world and your place in it. Equipment matches status and role. Equipment matches status and role. You don't start with whatever you want. Gear reflects rank, profession, access. Example, samurai, proper weapons and armor. Lower classes, limited resources. Equipment reinforces social structure. Honor is attached to the character from the start. You are expected to act within the code, maintain your standing. Your character is not neutral. They exist within expectations from the moment play begins, so you can actually hurt your reputation. So if you don't try to stay in this, if you don't play to it right, consequences, like I said, and they can be long-term. That can be good for inspiration and learn about medieval Japan. Definitely. And here's a good thing, guys. Something I said earlier, but something I'll repeat now. You don't need, like, it's the stuff, Craig, and even Philo, you're suggesting, fucking beautiful stuff. You're not meant to be a historian here. You don't need to, right? You just need to take what the book gives you as far as some of the details. Take what these movies and whatnot give you, definitely, in documentaries. Definitely give it to you. It's just more about applying that stuff and then being consistent with what the game is telling you to do. Be consistent. You'll create the field. You don't need to be perfect. So if somebody who is an historian sat down at your game and they noticed an imperfection, they probably wouldn't mention it because it still feels exactly like it should feel. And they'd understand that. They get that right away. Like, be like, well, that's not perfect, but this still feels right. And that's the part about being consistent as a game master that's important. Because you can still get the feel, which is important. Note it, Philo. Note it. Well, he's watching a different part. Okay. Freedom versus structure is a real trade-off. Different choices give different experiences. High status is power, influence, heavy restrictions. Low status is more freedom, less protection. There is no best option, only trade-offs. So each type, each status, low or high, has what you might call sort of a good and a bad side, right? Black and white for both. And almost in a way, you might consider them equal. Power and influence, but against freedom. Freedom is really important. But then you get heavy restrictions. On the other hand, you get less protection. Party composition, as we talked about, is about roles in society, not just combat. A strong group has different social positions, different responsibilities. This creates more interaction, more options. If everyone is the same, the game can become flat. It sort of does become flat. That's almost a guarantee. Mindset going in. Players should think, where do I fit in this world? Who do I answer to? What am I allowed to do? No, not what is the strongest build, because the strongest build won't be effective in the way that you want it to be. If you're playing a game. Bottom line, character creation in Bushido is about choosing a role in society, accepting obligations and limits, building a character that fits into the world. If done right, the game feels structured and meaningful. If ignored, the system pushes back hard through consequences. Again, that's something you just don't need to drill on as a game master. Just run the place properly. Run the game properly, you're good. Now we're on to settings. So we did the influence and how the game was born. We did how to run the game for the game master. We did the character creation part, as we always do for the players. Now we're on to the overall setting, which is information for everyone to know. Good to know, right? So Bushido setting. The setting is a structured version of feudal Japan with myth layered on top. It's not open fantasy. It's a controlled social world with rules that shape play. A fictional feudal Japan. Not exact history, but close enough. That's where I say you don't got to be perfect. This is fantasy, but it does want to create the real feel of feudal Japan. So the feel is more important than just being exactly right, like in the story. The game takes real world structure, real world hierarchy, real world expectations, and builds a playable version of it. You get lords, samurai serving under them, lower classes supporting the system. It is not meant to be perfect history, but it follows the logic of it. That's what I mean. It's not about you being a perfect historian, but the feel, some of the overall details are exactly what somebody who is expecting this for it to be, it will be, right? Society is rigid and defined. Everything is structured. Rank matters, behavior matters, position matters. People know where they stand, what they are allowed to do. If players ignore this, the world reacts immediately. Immediately. That's the consequences. Land is divided by power. The setting is made up of territories controlled by different rulers, regions with different levels of control, right, depending on the ruler, areas of conflict or tension. This creates political pressure, opportunities for missions, the adventures you do, situations where loyalty is tested. That's back to that moral testing of your character. Right, there's just so much of it, but it's good. It always feels interesting and challenging, and if again with the right game master and you're buying in, you'll love it. Like it will actually be fun, and you won't be like just running around doing action. That's where I say a lot of newer gamers don't really appreciate what this is because they haven't even played a game like this. There's not even a proper modern game that's like this. So they don't understand that performance is so important. They don't. Again, you get the new school where they think the more technical their game is with rules, the more smarter it is. Where I'm like, no, you can perform 5e easy. Performance is easy. A mediocre person can play 5e, but could a mediocre person so easily play this game? No. Right? If you ride the coattails of other players in a D&D session, you're probably going to have a hard time with a game like this. Just saying. You're going to get taught through consequences, but who knows how fast or how easy you'll adjust. And the game will keep throwing the consequences at you if you just keep screwing up. If you keep hoping that goes away, it's not going away. Villages, cities, and courts all play differently. Each environment has its own rules. Villages, local issues, survival focused, direct interaction. Cities, trade, influence, more complexity. Courts, formal behavior, politics, high consequences for mistakes. You don't run them the same way. They're all different. The supernatural exists alongside the real world. No, but here's what I would say: it's not like a perfect matchup, but most every part is going to be represented in some way here. Like even though it's fantasy, it is borrowing from the real world Japan to make things here. So when you go read about this stuff and you're checking out the history of Japan, you're going to realize, oh, okay, oh, this ruler would be like him, or this place, this court would perform like this court over here. So in a way, what you're looking for is an exact relation to history. No. Are there finer details you could probably pick apart if you want to? Yeah, but will it feel like that timeline? It will feel exactly like that timeline. That's what it gets right. But it does accept that there's a bit of fantasy, the real supernatural instead of assumed, right? So there's even more tension, actually even more tension you could put on through the fantasy of the game. Just saying. Just saying. So it's Chris G. If you're looking to be satisfied based on real world Japan, I think you will. You'd have to go out of your way and be so picky that if you were someone that picky that you couldn't enjoy this and you were someone who wanted that, I'd be like, yeah, you're probably not good for tabletop role playing games. You're so picky that you spoil the best of the best for yourself. I would say that's too nerdy, too picky. But if you're looking for something where you say, look, it's not exact, but is there something that matches this and you are satisfied? Yeah, it covers everything pretty much. Everything. But it does it in a fantasy way. But in a way where there's a lot of the real that you find within it. Oh, these courts have the same name. Yeah. These courts really reflect this place over here. Yeah, exactly. Right. And you're looking at a certain timeline. It's feudal Japan, obviously. That's it. Step outside of that, we get iffy. So supernatural exists alongside the real world. Like it is real, but again, mixed with fantasy. This is not purely historical. Spirits, demons, strange forces exist within the setting. Examples include the yokai or the ani too. Important. They are part of the world, but not constant. In a way, if you go back to feudal Japan, they would talk about these things and there'd be tension for people that would believe in them. Like a spirit is coming to get you, and they'd be frightened. Well, imagine you can create that tension through slowness and making the spirit rear, but finally, instead of the fantasy story, the spirit actually shows up. Like the thing is a thing, not just, oh, there was a story, they believe spirit showed up, but who knows, right? This one, the demon shows up, the spirit show up. So they should feel like events, not background noise. So when you finally meet up with a spirit or demon, it should be important. It should have been some time before you get there. It's not rushed. When you finally do meet up, they're rare and it's a spirit. That means, oh, you finally meet a demon. Wow. And it should feel like that because you're not just meeting them like it's willy-nilly game. You're meeting them, meeting spirits of that in very rare situations after tension is built up the correct way. Religion and belief shapes behavior. Yep. Seven Samurai. Good stuff. Am I missing anything anybody said here? No. Okay. Just making sure, guys, that I'm keeping up with you all. I appreciate all the things being mentioned here because it gives other people coming here things to think about, right? Which is beautiful. Beautiful. Religion and belief shape behavior. Temples, shrines, and belief systems matter. People respect them, fear them, depend on them. This affects decisions, reactions, how events are interpreted. Travel exists, but not free movement. Moving around takes time, has risk. It is influenced by status. A high status character moves with authority. A low status character moves carefully because they're not protected, right? They don't got security. They don't got guarantees going anywhere. It means they can get themselves in trouble. It's like, you're not allowed to be here. But someone with a higher status, it's you? Oh, you can come on in. Or you can bypass this guard set, right? Oh man, yeah, and you're getting here a little late. Craig was on point. There's been other things mentioned already, a whole bunch of stuff mentioned here. As a game master, if you're trying to come up with ideas, the chat has given you a mountain. Craig was on point from the get-go. Just a mountain of stuff that you should go watch. You should check out if you really want to get into this. And if you take my advice, everything I said here about how to run it, how to do this, how to care, how to take your time, if you take me serious on this game, then I'm promoting the game to your right. And when you go get it, you'll have a great time. If you go against what I'm saying from my own experience, and I had to learn the hard way, if you go against what I'm drilling at you and you go get this game, you'll probably be disappointed. It won't live up to the high standard that I'm telling you here, right? I don't want to pretend that the game is this if you try to play it down here. It won't be that. But if you do what I'm telling you to do, and I'm not trying to, it's not being better, it's experience, just knowledge and my own experience. If you do what I'm saying, your experience with this game will get you addicted to it. Like those players in you will keep coming back to it, I guarantee. I guarantee. Conflict here comes from obligation, not just enemies. The setting produces conflict through duty and versus personal belief. Orders versus morality. Loyalty versus survival. Not just, there is a monster, go kill it. I get the Gibson whiskey. You bring the beer, I'll bring the whiskey. Right? I'll probably have a drink or two before the whole stream starts. So hopefully I come in purposely buzzed, but it would just be a buzz. And then we'll go through Shadowrun, which will be a completely different tone and everything. But this one's still really, 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 really good. Information is controlled by position. See what I mean? I get why Craig said this one was interesting or why he'd be interested in this one, because I didn't realize Craig was into this. And I should have realized when he said, man, Bushido's going to be interesting. I should have said, man, he's so picky about D&D and all that. And I know he likes the space stuff. Why would you think this one's interesting? I should have clued in, Craig. Because I know how picky you are now. The second you said you're going to be interested in this one, I should have said, it's because it's a topic he likes. That's why he's interested in this one. You didn't tell me directly, but I should have just clued in. Right? Oh, I hear you. Oh, mine is in the freezer, getting good and cold. You'll have the good cold beer. We'll meet up somewhere in the middle. So, like I said, not just monster go kill. Information is controlled by position. What you know depends on who you are, who you serve. Players don't automatically have full knowledge of the world. So you are going to be limited starting off based on what kind of character you have, what you know compared to what you don't know. Again, that can be helpful if you're playing a variety of different characters in a group. You could teach each other. That's okay. Do it in game. So I would require it in the game. Like I wouldn't say, can I say my character? No. Is it outside the game? No. When we start the game, you can talk to each other in game. And I'm fine with that. And so that was the only rule I put on players, which was, I don't care if you each inform each other, but do it in game. Do it in character, like actually role play. Like, let's have fun. I don't mind you doing it. I don't think it's cheap at all. They just do it in the game, not just talking as players outside of the game. Right? Just do it in the game. So players don't automatically have full knowledge of the world, like I said. The setting feels smaller, but more focused. Unlike large sci-fi or fantasy worlds, this setting is tighter. It really is. More controlled, but every location has more weight. I mean, it is Japan. It's only so big. Every location has more weight. Every interaction matters more. Bottom line here, the Bushido setting is a structured feudal society with clear hierarchy and expectations, layered with myth and supernatural elements. What makes it work? Social rules are enforced. Making sure connection is good. Okay, social rules are enforced. Locations behave differently from each other. Conflict comes from obligation, not just enemies. It becomes real when players feel the pressure of the world they are in. And they feel it by buying in. So I got to tell you, if you ever play this, for you to have a better experience as a player, don't think you buy in to kiss a game master's ass. Nope. You take this serious and you'll have a better time. This is about your experience as a player, right? So if you take it serious, man, it's tense. It's your experience becomes better, right? So don't think you're kissing anyone's ass by, oh, I'm just doing what the game master. No. You're doing what's going to make it better for you. Because if you play it without caring, you won't feel anything. And this game is all about the tension and the feel. So if you take it serious, you can feel what the game is trying to give to you. And when you feel what the game is trying to give to you, you'll be addicted to this game. That's my promise. Your buy-in is better for your experience. Period. This is not about kissing anyone's ass. It's a better for your experience to take it serious. So instead of coming in with a modern day attitude about something, when a player is facing consequences, like when your character story is facing consequences, remember, you're not you modern day with an attitude. You're playing a character of the timeline that would be like, oh shit. Like you play in the correct humble zone of your character and you take it that way. And it's not about you kissing anyone's ass just because you might bow the head as the character. You will feel it and that experience will be better for you. All right, Bushido, this is what it does better or different. Bushido stands out because it builds culture and behavior directly into the system instead of leaving it up to the table. So what it's saying is to you as a player or game master, don't worry. For the game master, the game will take care of enforcing the thing. The world will. And for the player, don't worry about knowing everything. You can play as freely as you want. The world will teach you what you need to do, and it's okay to make mistakes. So the stress is off both you going into it as long as you take the game serious. So as long as you're willing to let the world teach you what it needs, and you do it through experience, you'll adjust to it easily. It's not hard. Just be okay that you're going to, as a player, play a character and you're saying the wrong thing. Oh, there's consequence. Ah, shit. But consequence in this type of game, failure isn't failure. Failure is flavor. Failure is part of how you experience the consequence. And by experiencing the consequence, you'll take the game more serious. As long as the game master keeps delivering that without trying to play favorites or take it easy on you, you're fine. We had a helicopter going over. I'll let that go for a second. I don't know if you hear, you probably hear that. Probably not too loud. Bookshelves are full of golden age samurai and manga. I see, Craig. I should have known that. I've been getting to know you really well, and so I should have. Next time you say you're interested in something, I'm not going to say anything, but I'm going to know right away. Oh, okay, Greg's going to have some interesting shit to say that night. I'm just going to walk away from any comment like that, just knowing from now on. The second you say you're interested in something, I know that right away. It's not random with Craig. You already know where you stand on shit, so I know you've already had a life. So when you tell me you're interested in something, it's not just because I brought something up new. Or, I mean, it might be a rare case that could happen, but most cases I will just assume, okay, Craig's going to have some good shit to say that night. Because you've been on point. Philo actually had some really good advice. That documentary thing, fucking perfect. Appreciate that, Philo. Really do. And even what Chris G brought up that thing for a second. That's good to go look into. Like he's talking about a certain real part of the world. Like it's good to go research this stuff to get ideas, because it's not like it's going to give you modules. It's going to give you a world. So when you're prepping social structure and ideas, it's good to have ideas. These will feed what you need as a game master. Go look into what Craig's saying, Philo, and even that one little thing where Chris G. All add that up together, and you'll make some amazing gaming with this. I ran this multiple times, and I told you guys in the past with some older games, a lot of them I tried once or twice, and that would be for a period of time, and that's my experience with them. Bushido, I actually kept coming back to because I could run it really well. I could get the feel. I understood it. All I had to do was always find a group that would buy in. The second I could, we go back to it. So I went back to this game quite often, to be honest. Okay. Culture is enforced, not suggested. Most RPGs give you a setting. Let you ignore it if you want. if you want. Bushido makes culture part of how the game works. Rank, behavior, obligation, so you can't ignore it. All affect outcomes. Difference? You can't just play however you want without consequences. So it's just not that game. And if you try to, it kills all the tension and the feel. So it really is, it destroys whatever experience you're trying to get from the feel of this. Social structure is a core mechanic. You want to look at it like a mechanic. In most games, social rank is flavor. Here, it directly impacts who you can speak to, what you can do, how others react. Result, social interactions has real mechanical weight. On point there, Chris G. I would agree with that 100%. 100%. And I could tell you could tell from just hearing the game. The game is made to take that old Japan, like the reality of Japan, and really enforce it. So the more you hear me explain this to you, the more you can go, yeah, I've watched stuff. Oh, this game would definitely do that right. Yeah, it would. I mean, I'm glad you're getting the beauty of it. I'm glad. I want to sell this to you guys right, but it's just all the advice I'm giving here, from the game master early advice to the way you make your character, the mindsets here. Some games you can sort of take my advice or be a little loose. In this game, what got me addicted to it was doing it right. So the advice I give here is just, it's so important. And it doesn't matter. Forget, it's not about kissing my ass. It's about your experience. So if you do what I say here, you'll play this once, play it the way I'm saying, have a game master willing to do the things I'm talking about, and you'll come back to this game. It's one of the only games I came back to over and over again after a short experience. So I just got lucky. I had someone come up and just straighten me up on my first run with it. Did a lot of foolish things early on. I just had a guy who just knew the game and just said, all right, dude. And he was willing to be harsh with me too. Called me a clown. Hey, you're being a clown. Okay, just fucking hardcore talk to me. But that was the right thing. That was the right thing for him to do, because it got through to me right away. And I was just humble enough to take it and then go back and make it all work. Okay, obligation, as you know, drives gameplay. The concept of duty, the Gi style thinking is central. Characters are tied to lords, bound by expectations. This creates built-in conflict, constant tension. Difference, the game generates story through obligation, not just events. So your adventure, some of your stuff will be, it's just there. But you can add on to everything from what these guys are telling you. Like, just so much. But it will help. It will make even taking that stuff, because you can take those ideas and go, how do I play? Well, you would apply it through obligation. You would apply it through this and that. Oh, that's how I can apply the thing from the documentary or the manga or the adventures, right? Yes, that's exactly what you do. So it's giving you tools, not just to bring this stuff in randomly, but ways to apply it and apply your own ideas, of course. And you don't have to apply exactly what they're saying, but going to watch these things and read this stuff will help you come up with your own ideas. I guarantee they're giving you great general stuff to just get an idea of what feudal Japan was like. Behavior has consequences built in, as we talked about. Yeah. Good information. GURPS is going to be a funny one, because GURPS is one of those games. I won't go too far into it, but when you mention GURPS right away, just like that, it's either you love it or you hate it. That's my experience with people that talk about GURPS. Whenever I met GURPS people, they love it. When I meet everyone else that doesn't love it, they hate it. I met very few people that would say, oh, I mean, I guess I would play GURPS. No, I don't really hear that often. Yeah, maybe somebody out there that you know that's like that. I personally don't meet it. Either you can buy into that game or you fucking walk it. That's been my personal life experience. It's not like I met 50 million people that play the game, but I mean, when I met people that play GURPS, it's either they fucking love it and they'll play it for a long time, or they're gone. Splat book, yep, splat book for the Japan part. I do know about the Japan part. That does have good information. It's almost like, I'm not the biggest fan of, I'll be real with you, Palladium's Robotech, right? I think it just got, like, in many ways, I didn't like how it played out. But if you were to run Robotech, the information that Palladium has in the Robotech books, it's mint. I mean, there's nothing second. They got all the information from the guys who actually were the showrunners. You can't get more than that, right? I like this game. Take medieval structure seriously. That is so hard for modern people to understand. I fear most players will come with smart-ass comments to superiors. Yeah, that's a shame too. They don't understand that by being humble, it improves what you get from this. I mean, it's the best way I can personally sell it to people that have the attitudes. And also, there's a lot of people out there that will just feel like they can't do this. They'll feel like this is too much for them. So instead of being honest and saying and thinking maybe this is above my head, they'll insult something like this. They'll say, oh, yeah, fuck this, fuck the structure. Like that, they'll have the attitude as a wall to avoid any shame they could feel. They're going, this is a little over my head. I don't think this is really over anyone's head. I think simply at the end of the day, it's the game master. And players can buy in as long as they're going to take it serious. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. You just have to take it serious, pay attention, and be humble. And if you can drop attitude and go, okay, when I tell you learn from something, you take a note, right? Some guys will just get it. You take a note. Like if I do that, oh, that's fucked. Don't say something like that again. You'll figure it out. But you really, that's where I say players really got to buy in and then put effort. So the other thing is effort. This is not a sit back, be lazy game. Like if you have that attitude, if you play D&D that way and you think you're going to come to this game and play it that way, you'll spoil it for yourself and you'll most likely spoil it for everyone else you're trying to game with. So if you're a coattail rider and you're mentally lazy, yeah, get off the table. But also you're probably going to be someone, instead of being honest and saying, man, I just don't really bring the heat to it, you'll say that game sucks. Like you're saying, Philo. That will be the wall you'll put up. That's your defense to keep your ego in place. So as I said, behavior has consequences built in. In many RPGs, players act freely. Consequences depend on the GM pushing back. In Bushido, the system expects consequences. Dishonor, disrespect, disobedience, all leads to real outcomes in play. Combat is not the default solution. Compared to most systems, combat is risky, limited, meaningful. Difference, the game does not push you towards constant fighting. Interaction and decision-making carry more weight. But unlike some other games that make combat only consequences, me adding personally, this at least does say there is time for combat where it's not consequence-based, where you got to do it. So it's like, okay, that's an important guard. You got to get through him. And if you can get through him and talk to this guy, it's going to change an arc in the story. It's going to be a meaningful combat that happens. So combat, when you actually make it, like when you want it to happen on purpose, should be a meaningful part to a change, to a twist in the story. It should never be random. The most random combat you'll face is consequence. You said the wrong thing to the wrong guy, and now he's coming at you. That's consequence combat. But outside of that, when it's more like, oh, I finally have combat set up for you personally, players, that is impactful combat that's meant to change the pace and what's going on. Characters are defined by their place in the world. In many games, characters are independent. Here, characters exist within a hierarchy, a network of obligations. Result, the world shapes the characters, not the other way around. Tone is consistent across systems. Some games mix tones depending on how they're run. Bushido naturally leans towards serious, grounded, consequence-driven play because the system supports that tone directly. A little bit different than space opera there, where there's a mix of tones. So that's space opera because it's meant to have a mix of tones because there's a variety of things going on. So that makes sense. This is limited to one place, looking for one feel. It has a direct tone to it. The setting and mechanics reinforce each other. In weaker designs, settings say one thing, mechanics say the other. Here, they match. Social rules are enforced. Honor matters. Duty creates conflict differences. The game doesn't rely on the GM to fix tone mismatches. The game just takes care of itself. If you run it right, a lot of things that you might worry about as a game master, you don't have to. You don't have to. It forces players to think differently. Players used to freedom, power, ignoring consequences, have to adjust. Think before acting. Consider the status of your character. Respect the structure that you're in. If not, it will make you respect it. That's the idea. It creates tension without combat. As I said already, you can run entire sessions, entire arcs with no combat at all and still have high tension and meaningful decisions. And I got to tell you guys this. That will be fun. I'm not saying we're looking to avoid combat on purpose. What I'm telling you is the consequences and decisions and dangerous and being on the edge of potential combat, you'll have a good time. That will blow your mind. And if you avoid combat because you made the right decisions, that feels like a good thing. It doesn't feel like a boring session or two. It really doesn't. The tension of the potential of what can happen, or meeting up with the supernatural without some dire straight, combat situation, right? All of the tension is taken care of because combat in most other games, because they don't do this that well, the threat of combat is building tension up for you. That's what the combat does. Excitement, tension. Well, the tension here is exciting, right? So all this is taking care of that feel, that experience for you without just fighting like a video game. So bottom line here, Bushido does better, or different, whichever way you want to look at it, enforcing culture and behavior through the system, making social structure a core mechanic, driving gameplay through obligation and consequences, reducing reliance on combat. It stands apart because the world is not optional. The system makes sure you play within it. See, here's the part with the criticisms and defenses. I only really found 3, to be honest, and I looked all over for them, just because so few people actually played this game. To be honest, I'm just serious. I only found 3 where they talked about too restrictive versus too restrictive. Criticism: players feel boxed in, too many expectations on behavior. Defense: the structure creates believability, consistency. Actions have context, not just freedom. Stuff I've already answered, but I just want to bring up that people did make the complaints. Hard to role play correctly. Criticism: players worry about doing it right. Cultural expectation feels heavy. Defense: forces players to think about their actions, consider consequences. Role play becomes intentional, not casual. Here's my own personal reaction to you feeling like it's hard to role play. It's not. My game mastering advice really takes care of this. If you go in and just play how you want without being too concerned, like you're just trying, the consequences will adjust how you speak. You will adjust without knowing you're adjusting. Like you're safe. I'm dead serious on this too. If you feel intimidated as a player, relax, breathe. Just learn. Okay, I can't say that. That's it. You'll naturally get to the point where you're talking right. Naturally. And too much focus on honor and duty. Criticism: constant pressure from obligation limits players' freedom. Creates internal conflict, meaningful decision. Without it, the game loses its identity. Limits player freedom. Yeah. Well, this is not D&D. You're not playing in a free do what you want world. And here's the great thing. I can go through some of the notes on worth mentioning. But really, I told you guys what this was from the get-go. Players will test the boundaries early. They will. So they will probably ignore rank, push behavior. This is normal. This is normal. What matters? You respond for the world, not lectures. If you handle this early, the tone locks in. Reputations build fast. World travels, action sticks. Players can gain respect quickly or damage your standing just as fast. This becomes a silent pressure system in the game. So it's a real pacing on the reputation thing. Small decisions carry more weight than big ones. A conversation in court, showing respect or not, choosing words carefully. This matters more than winning fights, gaining gear. The game lives in the details. NPCs carry a lot of the game. They really do. Lords, officials, villagers, rivals. They are not just quest givers. They are there to enforce the world, reflect consequences, drive interaction. And you can have an entire session without leaving like one location. Like you can be in like one area the whole time. But there's so much there that when I say that, it can sound boring. I guarantee you it's not. There'll be so much that you're doing in that one space that the decisions, the conversations, the tense, the threats, the potential of things blowing up on you right there. And then suddenly you go from things blowing up to, oh, we got peace. Holy fuck. That's important. Let's say bottom line here. Last thing. Bushido works because of the details. Players test boundaries early, so you don't need to be perfect, right? Reputations build quickly. You're going to learn this. Small decisions matter the most. NPCs and social dynamics drive play. The supernatural works best as contrast. It feels right when players start thinking before they act. The world pushes back naturally. Hour and a half. No, it can be very challenging. You got to take that serious too. You got to take it serious too. That's most all these games, like any game, if you got serious other players, you're good. If you take what you're doing serious, you're good. If you got a game master that runs it seriously, you're good. The second you don't care as much for the thing, or you try to act freely outside of the attempt to get you to do things in a limited way, boom. And then my only other problem with some people here, Chris G, I'm not saying this is you. I'm not even hinting that this is you. Don't take this the wrong way. It's not aimed at you at all. I've seen so many guys tell me, man, this is an intense experience. I go play with them, and I'm like, I don't want to say anything to them, but I'm like, no, it's not. Because some people, I hate to say it, they accept mediocrity. And mediocrity becomes good enough for them. And some people, sometimes they just haven't experienced something better, right? There's a lot of guys that think they play at a high level, and they don't. Or there's a lot of guys that will disagree with me without understanding what I mean when I say, I'll say like somebody's not playing something right. And they'll be like, well, man, that's not hard to get somebody to play right. And I'm like, oh, you disagree with me. It's finally when I go see them play the thing that I realize I still consider what they're doing not right. See, they think it's good enough. My standard is up here. So I have an extreme standard, but now I've had to dial that back down for the majority of players when I run D&D. That's what I talked about. That I was just being honest. I did a video about dumbing down my game at a certain point for the civilian groups outside of a certain thing. I did. I had to dumb down my game because I grew up playing with hobbyists early in my gaming thing, and that meant everyone played up here at high standard performance. Like we had a high standard. So when I went out, I would meet guys that would tell me how good their thing was, and I go watch or play. And I'd be like, privately, I don't want to have a big hit, and I had to calm myself down because I don't want to have that kind of ignorant attitude. And I liked the guys. I wasn't like, these weren't human beings I hated, But I was just being honest with myself. I'm disappointed with the experience because I realize what they're doing can be done up here. So they think it's good enough here. I know it can be done up here. And I know it's better up here. And I know if they had that experience up here, they'd agree with me. Right? But their experience is here. But they're okay with it here. That's good enough for them here. And I just realized to not be egotistic, I got to not talk that way to people. I can't even, sometimes I feel like when I talk to a lot of people, I can't tell the truth. It's like I'll hear a lot of old school guys that I know are here, not here. And they'll talk about new school people as tourists. And I know what they're doing is they're pretending they're up here, talking with a big head and judging tourists just down here. My problem is, I'm like, well, if I'd be looking at them going, well, dude, you're one of the tourists. You stayed around for a long time. But you're more like the new school tourist than you are like the actual hobbyist. Like, I hate to say it, but some guys I see out there, it's like, I'm like, you're pretending to be me. Like, I'm a real hobbyist up here. You're down here. And you're old school, I get it, but you're pretending to be here. But you're here. And you're no different than the tourist you're talking about. Actually, I look at you the same way you look at them. And that's for a lot of guys I meet here, especially raw guys that are stuck in the book and you can't be the creative. Whenever I hear raw, what it tells me right away, we stick to the rules raw. That's all we do. Conversation is all raw. It's all raw this. I'm like, you can't think outside of the box. You're one of those guys. Okay, fair enough. Just admit that part. Oh, if you play it right, but it is intense, isn't it, Christy? Playing it right, it's worth it, isn't it? I bet you enjoyed it. I bet that was still hard. I'm not saying playing up here is easy, but when you play it, it's like you said, you played that for a while. So I'm assuming you were into it. And yeah, I would agree, tougher than playing a paladin. Paladins aren't that tough. I've heard so many discussions around them. I look at a paladin like a holy person, where their idea is not to change the thief or something. Their idea is to be patient with corrupt people. Like if you're the corrupt person committing the crime, they got to go deal with you. Yeah, right. But if you're the thief, it's more about being patient with you and talking wisdom and not being angry with you for being corrupt, being wise and understanding, like Jesus. I mean, doesn't that make more sense, right? Like, shouldn't you be more like I lead by example, not through control? And once you realize that that's what a paladin can be for a player, you realize you don't have to be so stuck up in the air with them. That means they can travel around with the thief, hoping one day he sees through your example to be better. And maybe you convince the thief at certain times to be better. You've done good things in front of him. And you know he's not perfect, but you know nobody is. Nobody's without sin. So if you go in with that type of attitude, you realize you can actually balance a paladin into the game really easy. They don't have to be just so stuck up here and controlling and all of this. There'll be limits as a thief of what you can do in front of the guy. You can't just go murder, but it does. It depends on the DM to be able to see what I'm talking about. Then it depends on, it's having a player understand what I just said about playing a paladin, having a good DM to talk to them and say, you don't got to play this guy who's stiff. You can play this guy who's wise and understanding, who chooses not to hate his friend, the thief. And he can even be friends with a corrupted person because nobody's without sin. And the paladin would have family members that he loves that have corruption, have sin in their heart, stuff like this. It's not through hate that you change people. It's through love, right? I know it sounds corny, but these are the type of tactics you can take to make a paladin work within a group. So you don't have to have them have the conflict in the way that I've seen some people talk about paladins. I'm like, they don't have to be that way at all. They can be wise and understanding and patient with people and not expecting you to change overnight. You understand? Yeah, bet you the thief is in there, get the thing. Like, you know it, but as long as he's not hurting somebody really bad, not committing a very corrupted crime in a way that you would be opposed to. If there's, as long as the thief himself is not there harming fucking kids or something, it's not that hard for them to get along. And the paladin can go through life always hoping at one time. And then maybe the thief, with a player playing a thief who's playing with an easy to get along paladin character who is doing that, the player can play. Hey, you want to know what? That my paladin friend who saved my life, I'm going to go save his. Like, even though he's a thief, he goes to save his. It's like there's a good part in the Dragonlance novels where Raistlin, the wizard, he's evil, he's corrupt and all this, but he has a brother and people are good to him. They love him. They're understanding with him no matter how corrupt he is. And at one point, he saves them. He's been around them so much and he's supposed to be twisted as fuck, but he saves them. Because his little corrupted heart was twisted by all the good behavior towards him. Right? Like, people are so good to him that instead of just trying to control him, it's at one point he saves them. And he does it like, they're like, you saved us. And he sort of blows it off like, yeah, but I mean, you know, he saved them because he gave a fuck. But why did he give a fuck? Because they were good to him. And see, to me, I would tell her, I had players play paladins like this all the time. It works. It's, you have the paladin be wise and understanding, and then right away you change the dynamic of how that character plays out. Right? And alignment is not so strict that you're purely one thing. Like your law and this, but alignment is not so strict that you follow it for role play. So it's not role play, it's a sense. When I say sense, it means you don't have, it's not telling you how to role play. It's like in the real world, you can think, you know, I'm against crime, but you know, I'm not going to rat out my friend there. But you still oppose it. But that's alignment for you. Alignment's not telling you really what you're going to do at the end of the day. You're going to have to negotiate with yourself through the sense and feel of the alignment. And so you can ease up on alignment, not overkill with it, right? But what it's saying is you're not totally on board with the thief doing everything. So if the thief was robbing an innocent woman or a poor family, that's wrong. If the thief got caught taking something from the jeweler, you might not like it, but you probably still help him. Like, man, I need to hide. Like, I'm not happy that you did this, but get over here. See, that's what I mean by alignment. It's not like strict to role play. It's a sense of you're still opposed to it, but there is a common sense. In reality, you prefer the order, but a friend can make you make the exception. So you can always bend outside of it. Once you have a more reasonable view on all these things, it's great. Samurai, where I agree with you, Chris G, is samurai is not like that. Samurai is their honor, their way is really conflicting because unlike a paladin, they're way more strict to their sense. It doesn't mean they can't break it. It just means it's more on edge. It's not like the paladin being wise. It comes down to your honor and betraying it. It's like, it can make you kill yours. Like, samurai can be so stuck on their, what you want to look as alignment, that they can feel so dishonored by what they did that they'll take their own life. Or a paladin for a minor thing wouldn't do that. Playing a samurai, if you take it serious as a player, it should make you put you on edge all the time when it comes to challenging your moral system or your honor system. Because these are the type of guys that take it way more strict. These are the guys where the thief would have a hard time being around the samurai if he's doing dishonorable things, right? But now the samurai might not be perfectly like paladin, so he probably wouldn't care if you're breaking into a rich man's place or something like that, as long as he's not part of it and that you're not harming the wrong people. So he could still ease up in certain areas and look past certain things, as long as he's not forced into him performing a dishonorable act. And you're not. So there's some reasonableness there, but it's less than the paladin, I would say. That's my take right there. Whenever I give my heads up on the paladin thing, I think I teach people about that because I've heard so many conversations about a paladin where I'm like, a paladin, a thief, and all this. And I'm like, I squared that issue a long time ago. That's it. I just understanding how religious. See, I had a family that were Catholic, Roman Catholic. And two of my cousins were priests. And after talking to them and knowing what kind of attitudes they had, it was just easy to apply that to the idea of a religious paladin in the game. So instead of having this sort of strict, unrealistic sort of approach with a religious character, I would just say, like, even to the cleric should be a little bit touchy too, just like a paladin. So I would tell people, notice how you can play a cleric and you have a hard time playing a paladin? That shouldn't be the case. They should be very similar. Like a paladin is a knight with a certain order, but that doesn't mean a cleric is really any less in certain ways, depending on the religion, of course. But the religion should have some strict, and they should still see it as being wise and changing people through example and shit like that. And it's interesting to actually have that role play dynamic, right? Again, having such a weird relationship between a thief and a paladin. At one point, just like Raistlin the wizard, the thief does the very brave thing to save the paladin's life because that's his friend, even though the thief might be a corrupted little bastard, right? But here he is. He's been so affected by the wisdom, kindness, and patience that the paladin has shown him that he's there saving the guy. And that was one of the greatest examples I've seen in the novel for the Dragonlance stuff was Raistlin being his brother loving him. And because of this love and the way they treated him and they were good to him and helped him, he finally has this moment, no matter how twisted he seems, where he's affected by the caring. And that's where I would say any player who plays paladins especially should have learned from that scene. Like think about leading by example, and this is the type of change you can create. You can take a twisted soul and have that soul do something good. And that's all through your patience and caring, right? But I do love paladins. I do love samurai too. I just think, honestly, in the social structure outside of playing the combative samurai, I think Bushido does do it a little better. Because in reality, it's not like samurais were running around fighting everybody back in the day, right? The paladin is Jack Vance's dying earth, worshipped as a giant black stone Phyllis. I would imagine he's something closer to what I was talking about. I would hope. If not, maybe he could be more strict. I'm not saying you can't play a paladin who is way more strict and touchy on rules. Again, it does come down to personality too. But what I'm saying to players is, of course, you can play the guy who could be hard to play with the thief, and that still be real. So I'm not saying that can't be done and still be real. That guy would be way more strict. But it's just if you're personally looking at a group orientation where the group can't have that much conflict, because that's what D&D is, for example. You can't have that much conflict in a group and have it really work too well. How you can ease up on some of the conflict with it still being there to a point, as long as they don't cross a certain line, the thief, is by having sort of the approach I talk about. But yeah, I think that's a good read right there. Giant black stone palace. Dying Earth. As soon as you mentioned Dying Earth, I know Craig. As soon as I brought up paladins, I knew Craig was going to say something sooner or later. But I do it, and I know that's a separate thing from D&D. I know Craig's not super fan of D&D, but when it comes to Holy Knights, I know he's there. But yeah, I always like the dynamic of having. I like social dynamics of awkwardness. I actually think they're good. People would complain about having things like a paladin and thief in a group, and I'd be like, actually, I think that's excellent. I love some social conflict that is not pure character trying to kill the other character, where it's when it's player versus player, it's more for flavor, it's more creative, and there's a bond that's happening. So it's not just like there's conflict through hate, it's conflict through experience, learning, and the conflict eases up over time. There's a coming together of it. I think that's fucking magic. I think that tension and social interaction and role play is important. And I think that's something that OD&D, Beckme, and AD&D 1E didn't get too well, right? I think this is a second edition view, because second edition focuses more on social interaction and all that stuff. I find better. Now, it doesn't mean people who used AD&D 1E didn't do stuff like this. But if you looked for a lot of that push in those games, OD&D, Beckme, and AD&D 1, it wasn't there. So to take a lot of average people that weren't thinking of this stuff and having them do that type of social interaction stuff, that wasn't a big thing with most people because they weren't pushed to it. But it doesn't mean I'm saying people didn't do it. The difference with second edition is it intentionally, through the wording in the game, pushes people there with intention. They were able to travel with Kudra the Thief, and probably having what I'm talking about. I wish more people would check out history, like even what you're talking about here, because there's so many good examples, and I've seen it myself. I know what you're talking about there, Craig, where you can actually see the relationship work. That it doesn't even mean there's a perfect social dynamic. There can be conflict, but it's not the conflict that rips you apart. It's like, it's a great example, Lord of the Rings. They have it with the elf and the dwarf, where it's not a blown up thing that they have a clash with each other because they're different culture. They're different races. They have an issue with each other. But it doesn't mean that it's the issue that has to put them into a fight with each other. It's a sort of social bit of conflict. But over time, what happens? They're both good people or good beings. And that goodness overrides their conflict. Right? The goodness overrides it. They're good. And when they see each other leading by example in that good thing, the elf sees the dwarf do good. Well, the elf believes in goodness. It sells it to him. The dwarf sees the elf do amazing, brave things that are good. And this breaks down the conflict over time to the point where you get to the point of respect with each other. And so I like a little friction, but it should always be friction. And then through time and through your experience with the characters, you break that down. This should be obvious because you're bonding. If you're playing two characters in the same group, even in D&D, what are you doing? You're in a group together. You're sharing adventures together. There is real bonding going on, so that should be seen over time. That was a great example with Raceland too, was that bonding by being with a group of people and his brother for so long, that through a bond, no matter how twisted he was, he saves him. I hate to get all preachy about that stuff, but it all makes it really work well. And you don't have to have these extreme player versus player things. When I see extreme player versus player, I think people have lost the plot. Like if your player versus player thing harms the group and what you're doing in the game, I think that's just bad play. So I'm not against player versus player in the way people think. My qualm is a lot of people get it wrong. They take it too far, and the second it conflicts with the game and the function of how everything's working, okay, that's the part where you're harming the game. And there is a game element to it. It's supposed to function together no matter your conflict or not. So there can be player versus player, but it needs to work where you're not bitter with each other. And you got to care about each other. There should always be this, hey, we have a bit of conflict, but I'm good to you later. I'm good at the right time. And if it's just about ego, well, then that does not belong in any game in the hobby. It's about bonding. And if you understand these elements are more important, bonding, working together, if you understand that those are more important than player versus player, then you let the bonding and working together override player versus player to the point of, it doesn't mean it takes it away. It just means these important elements are up there with it, so they keep it balanced. Balanced player versus player is what you want. And the second there's egos or hurt feelings, it means something wrong has happened. That means the balance of the bonding and all this has been broken. People have taken it too far. So you can have player versus player, but you got to balance it out with the bonding and working together. These are all part of a team sport. And there's just so many examples of that playing out right. Where even Raceland, and no matter how dirty he can be with talk, he's never so conflicting that people are screaming, yelling, and can't get along at all. Right? There is a leveled out situation where there's a balance of working together, bonding, and even him saving them at one point. And that's showing you that these other elements are just as important. So you can have social conflict. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's how if it outweighs these other two things, you're fucked. Oh, listen, 100%. And the joking, the humor. Again, that's making the bonding, as he's talking about there, as important as the conflict. And that should balance out the things there. What you do is you get bad players. I hate to say it. I'm not hating on players, but if your player versus player thing causes so much conflict that you're hurting each other's feelings, either you're both guilty of being terrible players, or at least one of you is a terrible player for a tabletop role-playing game. And so you're terrible until you improve at that. So that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. It doesn't mean player versus player isn't acceptable in the game. It is. But when it's busting feelings and going too far, it just means you suck as a player. And that means what I would say to you, get good, because you suck. Right? You're not good. Don't pretend to be good at the game. You're not good at the game until you understand that these things are as important to the game. Working together, you're in a team sport. So if you don't understand that has to work together and you're hurting each other's feelings, either you both suck as players, I don't care what your decision's like, doesn't matter. You're shit players in a tabletop role-playing game. You're fucking awful. Get good. Get good, kid. You're no good right now. That's what I would say to those players. So I don't give them an out, and I don't pretend that they're fucking decent at these games. Because they'll be like, oh, you're going to be able to handle it. No, you're just a fucking bad player, and you're trying to pretend that you're something good. No, a good player would just simply know better. A good player could bring player versus player into the game and not have it blow up. A shit, amateur, mediocre player would have player versus player blow up feelings. That means you're mediocre. And if you're mediocre, my advice to you is get good, because you're not good right now. You're not on my level. And don't pretend you're on my level. I'm definitely better. I'm here. You're here. So when you get good, maybe you can get up to here. And then if you keep getting better, you can get up to here. But right now, if conflict for you is you play your ego off and blow things up, you're down here. You're a shit player for a game. You're no good. I can't trust you, and neither can the other players that play the game with you. And if we can't trust you as a player, forget your character. You're a shit player, and you're not good for the hobby. So either get good or get moving. That's what I would say to a player like that. Because either if you can't get better than this, get moving. You don't belong here. Go play an MMO and mouth off at people. That's what you do. Or go play Monopoly and blow up your big head there. But you don't belong in the tabletop role-playing game hobby. You're not good enough. You're not good enough to be here. So either get better or get going. So anytime I hear egotistic like that, where they're pretending to be good players, I'm like, no, it's a team sport. If you blow up the team, you're causing conflict like that, automatically you're fucking the game. You're fucking the way things work here. There's no way anybody can consider you a good player. You're breaking the system. You're breaking how this functions. That's automatically bad player zone. Terrible, actually. So people be like, oh, player versus player belong. Yes, but under the dynamic I set, which is bonding, working together, and then there's a little bit of conflict. But over time, like the bonding should balance out any real conflict. And the bonding part is more important because you are a team. So over time, the team should become closer and closer to the point that becomes a good thing and takes care of the conflict over time. Conflict is where you start, not where you end. Any good player knows that about a tabletop role-playing game. Conflict, player versus player, is where you start. It's not where you end. Where you end should be the bonding. Any good story would tell you that, and that's a story element to what we do. See, there's story elements we bring in. One of the story things is it's allowed, player versus player, as far as having a light conflict. Totally, totally fine for the storytelling side of the game. But you start at the conflict. It ends at the later point. That's what it is. It's about the bonding that's more important than the conflict. It's just there's some unwise people in the hobby. Some really mediocre people that are just unwise. They think in simple terms. They don't know. They don't have much experience. Like Craig has a bunch here from just reading. You don't have to even be a tabletop role-playing game person. Study history, read good stories, go through stuff. You'll see all the elements. And that's why Craig, as I'm saying stuff, is giving you examples because I know he's read this stuff. But so I've looked into all this stuff. And so you understand from the storytelling end of it is you start at conflict, it ends as you go forward, right through the bonding. And again, that goes back to the racing part. You start at conflict, but later in the story is when he saves the group. And he saves his brother's life, right? Because you start there and you bond over time. And again, that was an extreme case, but they're showing you even under the extreme cases, the player versus player thing doesn't blow up. And over time, the bonding, maybe through humor, maybe through whatever caring, emotional, whatever, overcomes the conflict, right? And I think it's actually good to have some conflict. I like the humor. Oh, as far as character versus character in a fist fight, yeah, you got to have players that their main aim over time is to not have the conflict, but they're playing it out. Of course, you can have a fist fight. You don't look to kill each other. You're a team. So as long as you put the team aspect ahead, that you got to work together on the same par, it balances. And then you get what Philo's talking about here. If people really are mad at each other, have a fist fight. Fair enough. But it's the reason you get to the fist fight and not the stabbing each other is because the bonding, the team gimmick and all that is put on the same par with player versus player. And when you balance it out with that, you get this. Well, feel what's happening is they're being thoughtless. They're not considering that they need to put these other things up. So it's an unwise thing. That's what's happening. Getting a very unwise reaction and a very inexperienced. Like if they had more experience with storytelling and understanding things, they would never think that first. But they're thinking video game. Like you said, looking at the character sheet, Philo, that's a video game, right? Great thing about Korra's movie is so many of them have remained in the West. Even Star Wars was originally Hidden Fortress. Has a good video on this named Escalation of Violence or Similar. Look at my chat. My chat is a gold mine tonight. It's an absolute gold mine. Now I'm dead serious with you guys. I'm not just blowing smoke up your asses. I really think everything you guys said tonight is fucking magic. For people that might be out there that don't understand much into the storytelling sides of things and want to get real examples of stuff, everything like from the topics we're talking and then these things, there's just a fucking gold mine of stuff here. Because I have some wise people in my audience. I'm very honored to draw these kinds of people to me, right? Very, very honored, right? Guys that know I know what I'm talking about, and they know it because they themselves have some fucking life experience and they've read into some shit and they know some shit. So I always know I'm going to get some good fucking shit, especially if we're on certain topics like this, right? I know it's going to be magic. Tomorrow night's going to be a lot of fun. I'll try to be on point because I know it's going to be Shadowrun. I think you're all going to like Shadowrun. I know Craig has a certain feel about D&D, but Shadowrun is definitely different. It's more of a cyber alley. I think it's just all around interesting for everyone. And if you're anybody who just has sort of vaguely heard of Shadowrun, but you haven't played it or ran it, then it's definitely worth checking it out. You guys know I'm going to feed you the proper gimmick, the information that really gives you deeper knowledge of Shadowrun so you can really get it. And it's an interesting connection to Earth Dawn, which I've already covered. And I keep telling people this, but it's worth checking out. Earth Dawn is considered the ancient history of Shadowrun. In case a lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people I talked to over the years didn't know that. I was like, Earth Dawn is like the ancient history of Shadowrun. They're like, what the fuck? I'm like, yeah, because they're made by the same people, and there's that connection. Like, really? Oh, definitely those, but going into the inspirations behind them, I think they're even deeper to a point, more well on point. A lot of people can watch stuff like that and just not take all the lessons out of it, if you get what I'm saying, Craig. There's a lot of people out there that when you hear why they liked the Fistful of Dollars, it's not always because of the wiser scenes in the movie, if you get what I'm saying. Like, I'm a guy who loves them, and I know you would too, and I know the other guys here too. We take a lot out of movies like that. I could watch it like 3 or 4 times. I have watched it like probably 10 times. Say Fistful of Dollars, for example. I take a lot out of that, but I know a lot of guys, if you talk to them, sadly, there's a few things about it, and that's what they get into the movie. That's beyond. Now they might enjoy the movie overall, but are they picking up on things and learning from certain things? Some people simply don't. Sadly, that's the reality we face. But here's the good thing about your advice here is when they're being directed to go learn these things and they go back and watch a movie like Fistful of Dollars, now that we're talking about it right now, I bet you other people go watch it now if they hear this conversation and look for stuff in that movie and go, oh wow, and pick up on stuff they never thought of before, right? Which is really good. Oh, it does. Yeah. Fucking brilliant storyteller. There is no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt. Brilliant storyteller, and that's why you have him influence so much. I 100% agree with you on that. Like to a point where if you can go back to his original stuff, I think it's somewhat better delivered with him, but it doesn't mean I don't like the Western gimmicks on it. I think they do really well. Very intelligent. It's a unique way of repainting the Old West. Because if you watch some of the other Westerns, they're not exactly like that. So it's a weird way of melding the two without people even probably realizing, like if you don't know the history, right? If you just watch some random person watches Fistful of Dollars, you won't know, but you'll be like, man, this is a really unique movie for a fucking Western if you've watched a few of them. And it is unique. There's a reason. There's a very, very good reason why it's unique, right? Very good reason. Even worth extending this talk for a bit. I'm glad I made it over 2 hours for this one. We're good. I'm still going to try to get a few more minutes out here because I want to get a full 2 hours outside of just starting the thing, which is good. I hope people enjoyed tonight. I hope people really want to look into Bushido. I really do. I think Bushido is fucking awesome. I really do. I genuinely feel it's fucking good. And I don't think it's hard to game master at all. It's simply do what the game says without, it's not about being mean. And no kindness, no favoritism, not about being mean. Just run the game like as it says. All you got to do. And if you're consistent in running the game the way it is, you're welcome, monkey. If you're consistent with it, you'll run it fine. You don't got to be a champ. And then the ideas that you're getting here, go watch some of that stuff. Take it into your mind. Read some stuff. Take it in. Trust me. Do that before you start on Bushido and then go in. You won't lack ideas. You'll get it in the game guides, the game master, as much as it does the players. And in a way, all you got to do as a game master is take it serious. And all you got to do as players take it serious. If all you take it serious, the game does the work. Like you don't need to be geniuses. You don't need to be special. And you'll have the experience up here that I'm talking about, right? That's right. I got to be honest with you, Blackbird. You got to understand. I grew up playing like fucking 50 games and running a bunch of games. This is what got me into this stuff. Is I talked to a guy who ran it, who was wise, who would pitch it to me the same way. And next thing you know, I'm like, can I borrow this? Yeah. Because I knew a guy who did a lot of the early collection, like some of the guys in the 80s. When I first started and going into like close to 1990, I would go over to their places, guys that ran for me and I played the games with. And like everybody you see now, they have the bookshelves of a bunch of the games that were out at the time. And I'd be like looking through and I'd be like, Bushido. I start flipping through and the guys would tell me about it. I'd be like, are you playing it right now? No. You want to borrow it, Steven, don't you? Yeah, go ahead. But I loved growing up in a community that was like that, where it wasn't about ego. It wasn't about trying to blow up your head or be better. It was about being excited by your excitement. Like they didn't want to, oh, I'm better than you because I know this, or none of this ego shit. They were gamers. They loved the games. And when they would see me have the thrill and enthusiasm looking at something, they'd want to tell me. And they get enthused just like I am talking to you guys. And so when I come here, it's never about blowing my head up with ego, like I'm better than other people. It really is about just talking about Bushido got me excited about Bushido. And so I naturally, as a gamer who loves games, I get excited. And then it gets me excited when I know you guys are getting excited. When I know it's hot for you, it's like, shit, yeah, it's hot for me, baby. I had no plans on running World of Darkness until we had that stream. Like, I sort of thought about it from reading it, but it was like talking to you guys and getting that energy back, getting you hyped and getting myself hyped. I was like, okay, gotta fucking go do this. Like, I hyped myself up too much. And I did that to them because I played for Bushido for a while. And after I played a few games of it, they let me print it out. I printed it out. And they got the book back and they went right back to playing it. And I know why they went back to playing because they pitched to me. They got it themselves excited. And then they heard I went back and told them about my games. They were like, yeah, we're going to play it. I was like, I even laughed and I said, did you guys even plan on playing this? No, not until you talk to us. once we talked about it, they all had to go back and play it. So I'm hoping that I feed that enthusiasm and energy to you guys. Because just talking about it tonight got me fucking hyped up. Fucking Bushido, I love it. Like, now I want to go fucking run Bushido. I do. Almost like even Space Opera. Space Opera, after we talked about that, I had to talk myself out of it. I was like ready to call somebody I do, go, we do some Space Opera, dude. Because I know myself, I could end up feeling but like I'm a YouTuber now. I do the content, so I'm like, I have a limited amount of time to game. I have to accept that no matter how nerdy I am, no matter how much of a gamer, no matter how hyped I get, there's a limit to my time. So I just got to go, no matter how hyped, okay. I had to not call the person about Space Opera. I just had to let it go. I let it go. And I want to go run Bushido now that we talked about it. I got to let it go. But I hope, because you guys have more time and it's new to you, I've done this. So if it's new to you, I want you to want to do this for real. Because I don't think it's hard at all. The only part is the simple part of taking it serious and then just running the game. And again, letting players fall on their face. Don't try to teach them outside the game. It won't work. Let the game teach. And it's all easier than you think. And rules for old school games, I always want to tell guys, this is why I drill at you. The rules are easy because it's about the experience, the feel, and playing the game. Not you trying to figure out all the technical rules. Old school doesn't like that. I was still in junior school when a lot of these games were published and all my pocket money was spent on miniatures. Yep, I hear you. I know guys that were like that too. Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're talking. And not every guy had all the books. I was just lucky to be in a community where my benefit was this. This guy over here would have several books. This guy over here. And since they were really cool with me and it's in a military environment and like they're cool, they know my family, my Navy family, my grandfather, who was a Navy captain. And some of the guys worked under him. So, I mean, but that doesn't mean that was the reason they kissed my ass, but it was the reason we had a good relationship. We got to know each other. And then they just trusted me. I was really good on returning material. I never fucked around. They knew I brought it as a gamer. Like, they felt it. They knew it. And they knew I'd print stuff out. So I would never keep the books forever. I would go print out stuff and give it back to them. And they were cool like that because they know I just wanted to game. That's all they understood. There was just a passion for gaming that they themselves had. And they love getting hyped up by young guys. Because these guys have been in the hobby since the 70s themselves. And they played a lot of these games. And you get a little burnt out. And then you're meeting some young guys like myself. And suddenly they're hyped again. So they're ready to play the game again, right? So they love that. But yeah, some guys like getting their miniatures. How it works. And miniatures see, that's where I tell people, miniatures were not used the way people think because they cost so much money. That's why you can get your miniatures and paint, or you can buy games most of the time. And a lot of the guys in the hobby back then were not a bunch of old guys. That was still the 70s weren't as many. There were more younger people coming into the hobby by the late 80s, early 90s that the old guys were outnumbered. We outnumbered them. That's the truth. We just didn't have the same big community as we do now. So it wasn't like there was a ton of older guys. There were some older guys. And then there was just an overwhelming amount of young guys. Right? It's the last puff. And then I'm not gone yet. I'm here till this is done. Just like I say, I did the 15-minute early start. and then I stayed for the 2 hours for the thing, right? Because I know I'm probably going to try to stay for about 3 hours tomorrow night. So tonight I'm not going to push myself to 3 hours, but there's a lot of material for the Shadow Run, and I want to go over that in detail, and I'll be buzzed. So I'll be just get ready for it, guys. I'll be Warhammer 1E, yep. Oh yeah, the war game stuff. Again, I was lucky there. What I was lucky was because I'm in a military community. We had war gamers that just let me participate without me needing to purchase stuff. I won't lie, that was the reason I even tried the wargaming, is because I told you guys. Now they gave me an army nobody wanted to play, but I was willing to play them because they didn't have to spend money. Again, that was the Imperial Guard. A lot of the guys just gave me a piece together army because they all bought Imperial Guard guys, but after a while, nobody wanted to play the Imperial Guard. So everyone was playing something else that they built up. But that great thing was, because they all had a bit here and a bit here, they brought them together because all the guys wanted me to play so badly. They said one night they were having a drunk talk. They were getting fucking loaded. They said, well, I have some Imperial Guard. Will Steve play the Imperial Guard? I think I do too. And they called me over and they were all drunk. Steven, yeah. You said you play, right? Yeah, I just don't got an army or anything. We have an army for you, the Imperial Guard. You play them, right? Sure. But I was cool like that. I would. I said, sure. But they knew sure was not a throwaway thing. They knew it was safe. That's why they all, no matter how drunk they were that night, they trusted me. So if I said, because if I didn't want to do something, they know I'd say no. I never just said yes. Just say yes casually. So if I said yes, they could trust me. They all took my yes and went, fucking okay. Those were good times. They were constant joy. Oh, yeah. The guys all loved painting their fucking miniatures. Even players, there were some games where the Wargamer guys brought over miniatures to use. So I used miniatures for running their stuff for D&D. I ran with chips, paper, and some miniatures for some other groups. That I told you guys, I wasn't against running with miniatures. I just wasn't a big fan of it. Right? But I would. But I would tell guys, look, I'll be honest with you, I can't provide the stuff. So if you play with me and you don't get the stuff, we're playing. That was most of the time, right? Because I went to a lot of new guys coming into the hobby too, or guys that have a game master, and if they were new, they weren't going to have miniatures. They weren't war gamers, they were new. But whenever I took on war gamers, I didn't even like to bring your piece to the table, man. Let's show them off. Any night that I had a couple guys that were preferred miniatures and said, Steven, you can do in the head, but would you draw some things on paper? I wouldn't need to personally do that for myself, but I would do it for them. Okay, guys, all right, let's do the paper stuff just so you guys can understand easier. You're here because I would do it out of request. So I wasn't an asshole. If people requested because they had a hard time remembering, not that I always said you could trust me, but guys would just want me to draw it out anyway. Though on certain nights, they would actually let the paper go and they'd realize, okay, yeah, you're good at explaining stuff and keeping us on track. I'm like, yeah. You really don't need the paper. But I get some nights they want it. So I'll be like, okay, I'm not going to be a prick. I won't be a prick. I don't need the thing myself, and I can keep them on track without needing it. They just don't realize it because I can paint it up here. But I would do it anyway, just to satisfy some people, just to be cool, be a cool guy, right? Be a cool guy. So if people had the miniatures and wanted to supply them, I'd be like, yeah, because they'd be like, Steven, you do pure theater of the mind, so let me guess, we have the miniatures and you won't play with miniatures. I'd be like, you guys got the miniatures? Yeah. You got, okay. Well, I'll probably use a quarter or something for monsters or something. They're like, yeah, we don't care. I'm like, because I don't have the miniatures most of the time. I had some. So on occasion, if I was doing a miniature game and I had the right miniatures, of course, I'd bring the things over, right? I'd bring them with me. But it's like, hey, I don't care if you want to use miniatures, but I'm only going to use pieces or quarters or dimes or I don't I'll do it for you, but on your end, if you want your characters represented as miniatures, you got to bring them. You got to bring them. And if a new player came in without a miniature, but we were playing the miniature game and they were okay with it and they were actually into it, I'd be like, well, until you get a miniature, You can just bring a piece to something to represent your character until then. So I'd be cool. I work with people. I was never an asshole about game mastering with anybody. If people wanted miniatures, they got their miniatures. I just wasn't hard on it. It's just if you ask me a preference, I prefer it all to be up here. That's a preference. That's not, I'm just not a prick about it. I just don't care. But most of the time we couldn't ever do miniatures. So most of the guys were actually thought I was very smart about it. Where I wasn't a prick about it, the miniature guys always liked me. That's why I said I had a good relationship with guys that liked miniatures or war games or whatever, because they realized Steven's pretty cool. But everybody knew, almost everybody around didn't have the right amount of miniatures to play with miniatures or do miniature gaming. So most of the games, even outside of mine, were pure theater of the mind. And most of the guys, I could do large scale combat. So could so many of the other DMs. But first off, most of the time you're not doing large scale combat. And some DMs that admitted they had a hard time with large scale combat, they just never ran a game with large scale combat. They would always keep it at reasonable levels. Like it might be like 10 monsters. Well, you can run 10 monsters up in your head. You can run fucking 15 monsters up in your head. But like if you're going to get to the point of running fucking 20 guys, a lot of guys were like, oh, shit. And some would use paper. That would be fine. But I mean, most never use paper. Most never use miniatures. Just was the thing. The war gamers were the real miniature guys. Now, in some games, I would see the war gamers, if they had the extra pieces, you could, like on some of the nights where the guy I did miniature gaming, I'd only have a few quarters. I'd be like going over, like, what's going on, Steven? I'm doing miniatures tonight. I got quarters for the goblins or something. They were like, oh, we got stuff for that. But I have to be there, and they have to be there, and they lend it to me right on the spot. I mean, I couldn't keep the stuff, but I could be like, yeah, I'm doing goblins. So they're like, oh, we got some stuff for you. Cool. Because they knew I was cool, and they were cool. I loved having that community and that relationship. I hate the YouTube world of content competition, attack each other, lie about people. I think that's all pathetic. I think it's one of the most pathetic things I've ever experienced in the tabletop role-playing game hobby, to get on here and, oh, here's a image of a receipt. And I'm like, well, I didn't do anything, so it's an image. Or, again, I go back to the image I seen recently, which made me laugh. It's I'm attacking someone, but the timeline of my attack and when I interacted with the person, I had long hair. But it shows me, I guess, something where I commented to someone in Discord talking shit to them. No, I never said anything like that. But the image of me used is me with short hair. But when I talked to the person, I did talk to them. I never said anything like that to them. I had long hair. I even had the image of long hair in my Discord thing. So it's like, I can just tell you guys just don't know that. You guys just, because you made the image up. You made a fake image where I'm really not attacking someone. You just got a fake image and you got me with short hair. But what you don't realize is when I talked to that person, I had long hair. And I had the image of me with long hair in the thing. So it's like at the time on Discord, everyone knew I had long hair on Discord because I had my real picture up all the time. Me with long hair. So when you see the image of me attacking this person, I only talked to this person like, whoa, years ago, or yeah, a few years ago now. And I had long hair. I cut my hair short recently. A recent gimmick. But when you're making shit up and you're making fake images to attack me and lie about me, if you don't know about my history, you'll just put in bullshit. A bit early, but your birthday started here in Norway 3 hours ago. Well, then in Norway, I'm 46. Okay, guys. And yep, wrong time zone, I know. But we're there, dude. And if you're having a drink, have a drink for me. Okay, when I start tomorrow night, I won't lie. I'll probably already be into a couple of drinks. I won't be drunk. I don't get stupid drunk, but I catch a buzz. Thank you, Philo. I appreciate it. 46 years of age. Interesting fucking timeline for a birthday, right? Whatever. Interesting time to live in. Thank you, Craig. Very much. Thank you, guys. I love you all. You know that. So we're going to have a good time tomorrow night. Shadowrun, birthday drinks, all the good stuff. Thank you, Monkey. I wait a second. I knew it would get to you. Yes. Thank you, Monkey. Love you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Chris G. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate that too. Well, we're all going to have it together. I'll see you then.